And Kenjaku has been playing us for a fool. I don't know about you, but I deadass thought Yuki and Choso, with a little help from Tengen, were gonna take the win in this fight, but that is just simply not happening at all. Chapter opens up with Choso rejoining the fray after a quick little power nap, and if you need a refresher, Choso stepped up to the plate first to fight Kenjaku in a one-in-one effort in an attempt to draw out his technique and his domain, and that didn't quite go according to plan, and Choso ended up getting his ass whooped, and that's where Yuki steps in and tags Choso out in order to fight with Kenjaku, and in doing so she actually manages to land the most amount of damage we've seen anyone do so far in the series. But Choso is back, and we learn that their original plan of Choso fighting one-on-one with Kenjaku is somewhat of a ruse. We learn that Choso is actually supposed to lose the fight with Kenjaku so that he'll believe he's fighting Yuki in a quote-unquote one-on-one fight, so then he'll be more inclined to use his domain against Yuki, and with Choso defeated and out of the picture, which is what we saw in the previous chapters, Yuki can then pressure Kenjaku to the point where he actually needs to use his domain expansion, with Yuki intentionally holding off her own domain and instead opting to use a simple domain under the planning with Tengen, so Tengen could then dismantle Kenjaku's domain before he could do any real damage with it. Because if I'm not mistaken, we didn't actually see the powers of Kenjaku's domain or the effects of it, because the attack that he used to crush Yuki was gravity manipulation. Also, by the way, take a shot every time I just said domain. Good lord, you're in for a good Friday if you do that. But back to Choso reappearing behind Kenjaku, we see Choso getting ready to fire a piercing blood. Kenjaku is essentially held in place by Garuda, with Yuki adding weight to it to keep him in place. Choso then comes out with the sickest line he's ever been given. It's parent killing time. If I'm honest, that is the funniest line I've ever seen Choso say for so many reasons, but the main one is that Choso always has been the serious, brooding type of character. So to see him come out with something like this was wild, but also it seems a bit out of character, and if I'm honest and I'm putting on my conspiracy theory hat here, I would say that Choso isn't actually the real Choso, and instead he was a fake swapped out somewhere when he was sent away by Yuki in the previous chapters. However, I have zero basis for the statement, so it's just me being a crazy conspiracy theorist. But Choso ends up landing the piercing blood, and it ends up knocking Kenjaku's weird little skull cap off the top of his noggin, and this is where we see Choso and Yuki's reaction to Kenny's little brainlet sat in Ghetto's pilot seat here. And we have to remember that no one outside of the disaster cases and Gojo have seen Kenjaku's brain like this, and they have no idea that this is basically Kenjaku's true form. But we see Kenjaku is basically a fan of Mike Tyson. He used a boxing head movement to mitigate that damage that was caused from the piercing blood, turning his head as the piercing blood hits, allowing his freaky little skull cap to spin around on his noggin. Yuki, wasting absolutely zero time, moves in, giving Kenjaku no time to recover, and starts landing heavy kicks on his chin. But just before that happens, Kenjaku manages to sew his noggin back together as the kick lands, and we see him acknowledging because of the output from Bombier being weakened due to Yuki's injury. Remember, in the previous chapter, she got her arm mangled up. That attack might have done more damage and been more dangerous for him. Now, I'm not sure if Kenjaku is talking about the piercing blood that landed or the kick that landed, and I'm assuming that it's due to the kick that landed and not the piercing blood, purely because he's already pulled his head back together after the piercing blood by the time the kick lands. So I'm assuming that he is talking about Yuki's kick here. But right after that, Yuki is also thinking to herself that she must have Kenjaku cornered for him to resort to tricks like this, which only boosts her confidence in this fight, and we can see her visibly starting to pull ahead a little bit in this fight. Yuki and Choso proceed to jump Kenny's ass, landing all sorts of hits and combos on this man. And I also want to point out that Kenjaku is taking this beating and managing to block / deflect some of these blows, while even being weighed down and slightly strained due to Garuda being wrapped around him. But Choso tells Yuki to heal up, and he also mentions how we have got to recover Bombier's output, which, as Kenjaku mentioned, is weaker due to Yuki's injuries, because obviously she just had her arm mangled in the previous chapter, which we see her healing her arm with reverse curse technique. And I've seen a few people talking about how this feels like an ass pull, and I have to disagree. I feel as if reverse curse technique now is almost a staple of becoming a high-level Jujutsu sorcerer, and now at this point in the series, it doesn't surprise me that someone of a high level or as a special grade knows how to use it. I feel like it's just become a common thing. In my opinion, it makes sense and doesn't feel like an ass pull. But that being said, Yuki manages to heal her arm, and as she's healing her arm, Kenjaku manages to escape from Garuda due to her technique being even weaker, with her focusing on healing herself. And again, Kenjaku shows more reasons as to why he should not be underestimated. And I have to admit, I am truly guilty of underestimating this man. Like, I need to put put more respect on this man's name, because in a previous video where I was ranking all the special grades, you should go check that out, by the way, I placed him in number 5, and honestly, I'm gonna have to go back and reconfigure that video, because the man's pulling ahead here, and he definitely needs to be a little bit higher up, and I kind of fucked up on that video, I'm not gonna lie. But with Yuki now having healed herself, she uses Garuda to destroy the surrounding area, and she's using it like a whip. It's honestly really interesting to see just how many ways she can use this thing. We've seen it use it as a bowling ball, almost like a sword, and now a whip. I wouldn't mind seeing it use as a spear or like a bow staff next, but the way she's using it is very phenomenal. But Yuki and Choso end up taking advantage of the dust cloud that is created by Yuki to close in and potentially land some critical hits on Kenjaku, which is where Kenjaku flips the switch on this battle. From here on out, this is Kenjaku's fight, and we learn why Kenjaku has survived for so long. Kenjaku's gravity technique finally comes back to him, and he activates it almost instantly, disarming Garuda and Choso, and Yuki ends up deducing that Kenjaku's gravity manipulation lasts around 6 seconds and can be used over the space of about 2 to 3 meters. And I'm not sure if it's Kenjaku's technique running out, but somehow Yuki manages to pull Garuda from underneath the gravity, manages to swing an attack at Kenjaku, but the attack narrowly grazes Kenjaku, and he ends up summoning a chaos spirit, as we see Yuki figuring out that Kenjaku is really just a boss battle in a game right here. Kenjaku will use gravity manipulation for 6 seconds over an area of 2 to 3 meters, and then once that technique is used and is recharging, he'll fill that space with chaos manipulation spirits, which, as Yuki mentions, the chaos spirits are nothing but fodder to her. And again, Yuki's confidence starts to grow for the second time in this chapter. She's now starting to believe that she can win. Yuki once again attacks Kenjaku as she is breaking down a plan of action inside of her own head, which is where we see Kenjaku again flipping the tables on Yuki. He seemingly catches her attack, and we see a miniature UZUMAKI above Kenjaku's hand, and he blasts it into Yuki's face. And honestly, I did not expect Kenjaku to pull out a miniature UZUMAKI. Like, honestly, I thought at some point he would use the technique of UZUMAKI to absorb Tengen, but not in this way, and it's a complete and utter surprise to Yuki. But honestly, it shouldn't be a surprise to the reader. We probably should have seen something like this coming, considering just how strong Kenjaku is overall right now. So I'm surprised, but also it's caught me off guard, the application of it. I wasn't expecting a miniature UZUMAKI. I was expecting UZUMAKI, but just not in this form, basically. But it also doesn't stop there. Giving credit where credit is due, Yuki manages to tank the first UZUMAKI blast, but as she has her hands up and is guarding from that first blast, Kenjaku dips underneath that guard, again, boxing style, and uses a second UZUMAKI. That's 2 UZUMAKI in the space of seconds. The blast rips through Yuki's stomach, with Kenjaku adding to the fact that Yuki's weight doesn't change when she uses Bombardier, so even if the density changes, her durability doesn't change. But we see Yuki with a massive hole in her stomach, and I gotta say, it's not looking good for our girl Yuki right here, because this will be an intentional hit from Kenjaku, because as we know, sorcerers basically need their bellies to summon cursed energy. That's where it comes from, as it was explained by Todo, and if the belly isn't there, I can't really summon that cursed energy anymore. So I don't know how Yuki's gonna survive this, and if I'm honest, I don't think she does. Overall, this chapter went absolutely nutty. Again, Gege went on a break, come away, dropping heat. Solid 8 out of 10 for me. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as it does help the channel grow. And if you want to support me even further, consider becoming a member for some extra juicy benefits. But that is everything from me. Much love, big kisses. I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.